right, Danielle, it's week 19 and playoffs are here. And wow, what a big week for the Indiana Fever.
Yeah, it's really, I think we said last week, oh, they would have been a top four team with Caitlin. And here they are in the semifinals without her. So really incredible. Great week for them.
It is, it's got to be categorized as an upset. It's Hoosiers come to life here, with the beating the 3 seed without your best player. And yeah, it's just
Without
a
your
lot
best
of great
player or the
contributions.
backup or the backup or the back, like, yeah, five players out with season-ending injuries. Dantas out, which we thought was going to be really bad against Atlanta just because they're so big. But Bree Turner did a really good job in her minutes this series.
Yeah, I mean, that we can touch, I'd like to touch on that a little bit later, just on how she did. But yeah, we thought would really need Dantas in this series
Hmm
just to give Boston some rest. And, Turner played great. So really, other than that, the first game was a bit of a stinker by Indiana, but um, I also think that was kind of what I called it the challenge game because Indiana had to use 2 challenges in the first half to keep
hmm
their 2 best defensive players, ostensibly, in Boston and Lexi,
Yeah.
out of foul trouble. And both challenges were successful, but then they didn't have any more challenges, and there were more bad calls in the
Yeah.
second half.
Yeah, it's frustrating. The refs are not good. But yeah, they just couldn't quite get it going. Kelsey had a really good game, but no one else had more than 10 points for Indiana. So you really can't win. They've been winning when they've had five players in double figures. So two is not a winning formula.
No, it's not. And, a couple notes, even though we felt the officiating was horrible, I mean, the Fever did shoot a lot more free throws in the series than the
Hmm
Dream did. I do think Atlanta's a very physical team. They're up in your grill and in your space, much like the Valkyries were against Minnesota, which we can talk about later. But
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana did shoot a lot more free throws. They really made a lot. They were 15 for 15 in game two, but
hmm
they didn't shoot quite as well in game three, and not, you know, just their shooting. I think they were 2 for 15 from three in game one. Just bad shooting night and
hmm
low scoring. Only got 68 points. You're not going to win scoring 68 points in a WNBA playoff game. So game one was a rough start. I thought, Steph White got a technical in the second half. I think Odyssey Sims got a technical in the second half.
hmm
They were getting very frustrated with the officiating,
hmm
and I understand that because we were getting frustrated as well. But yeah, that was just a tough opening, and it didn't seem to bode well for how the rest of the series would go.
Right. Especially Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray both had really good games. And you can't have, Bree Jones is probably going to give you, close to a double-double, and Naz Hillman has been good. Naz hit a good number of threes this series too, but yeah, kind of had their backs up against the wall, but going back to Gamebridge for game two, so that helped.
Yes, thankfully the WNBA changed the 3 game series um, approach and has it home away home for the higher seed, and it makes a lot more sense. I know Becky Hammond was complaining about it, but she just seems to be
She
just
complains
a
about everything.
crybaby lately. I don't know. I very disappointed in her because we've always liked her as a coach and what she does as a coach, and just seems like all she does is cry about things when they don't go her way, and it's not a good look. I
No.
don't think at all. I feel like
And it's really just a bad take. It's illogical. She was saying it gives an advantage to the lower seed, but if you lose a game, then you had close out the series at home. That's advantage home team.
yeah, I mean, the most important game in theory is game three, and you get a
Yeah,
home game for that. So yeah,
right.
I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, if
The
you go
previous,
two, then one, and all you gotta do is you steal one game and you get the deciding game at home as
yeah,
the lower
exactly. That's
seed.
crazy.
I mean, Becky Hammond, that's just a wrong, it's not just a bad take, it's a wrong take.
Right.
So going back to Gainbridge did help, and Indiana shot much better and 15 for 15 on their free throws and,
Hmm.
more players in double figures, just a much better game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think yeah, Kelsey had 19 in that one. Just she's been really, really good. Aaliyah was good also with 15, and I think Powers had a pretty impact. She wasn't impactful in game one, and she only ended up with 3 points in game two. But game one, she was just making mistakes, and uh, game two was better for her, and then game three was probably even better for Powers. But Timpson came in and gave him some buckets. She ended up with 9 points. So they got really solid contributions from both Timpson and Turner in the absence of Dantas.
Yeah, they really did in game two. Timpson had 9 points in just 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And Turner just played 12 minutes in the first game, but then she played 20 minutes in game two and 18 minutes in game three. And after just like being a ghost for the first 6 weeks of the season or so and not getting any minutes, and we were wondering why in the world were they keeping her on the well, at the beginning of the season, we were like, why aren't they playing her? She's a good defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought she could really contribute. Then halfway through the season, we were like, oh yeah, okay, we'll give Timpson the developmental minutes and
Mm-hmm.
not don't play Turner. But you know, now we're back to hey, she's a good player, and why weren't they playing her all along? It does. It's been a I know
Yeah.
it's been a weird season for them with injuries and everything. And I think Coach White has done a great job given all the complications they've faced with injuries and bringing in new players. And, I think she's done a great job. But the Turner thing is still a bit of a mystery to me because she's
Yeah.
contributed.
I think it was literally just they had six post players, and how do you get minutes for six post players? I think was all it was. So,
Counting
um,
Bonner as a four or something,
well, so
or
they had Aaliyah and Natasha Howard and Dantas, Turner, Timpson, Bonner. Yeah.
okay,
Bonner's not really playing. And then, I mean, Sophie, she plays the two
a
to four
three,
kind of.
yeah, well,
So,
2 to 4, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so game two was just a great win, and maybe we can uh, a little bit of a meltdown though by Alicia Gray.
Yeah. She was getting frustrated. She was in foul trouble towards the end, at least in game two. But just missed some layups, missed some shots, was getting frustrated on some no calls. And then there was some interaction with the fans, and the security came over and took someone out just to kind of de-escalate the situation, it seemed like. And then he came back in later, and it sounds like it was just kind of normal, like, you're flopping, you suck kind of stuff. So I don't think it was anything.
Yeah, well, this is something, our segment, what were they thinking? I really want to know what is the WNBA thinking? This fan clearly didn't say anything terrible, or they wouldn't have let him back into his seat. And those are really expensive seats. He was courtside. You're paying hundreds of dollars for those seats probably, and to be escorted out just because, I mean, really, I mean, Alicia Gray had a meltdown and couldn't take a little bit of very typical fan taunting. Nothing out of bounds or over the
Right.
line because they wouldn't have let him back in if he'd done
Right.
anything really bad. So I don't know, WNBA, that was a bad look to do that to the fan. And WNBA players, you've got to have a little bit thicker skin when you're playing in front of hostile crowds. That's just, not a good look for the WNBA, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So then it came down to a deciding game three back in the high school gym in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, that was probably the best game of the series. The first two are kind of blowouts both ways. Home
Mm-hmm.
team kind of blew out the visiting team in game one and game two. And then game three was both teams were shooting great. Offense was going great for
Mm-hmm.
both
Especially in the
teams in the
first
first
half.
half.
Yeah.
I mean,
And yeah, when we were watching it, we were just impressed because Atlanta, I think, hit their first six shots or something like that to start the game. And Indiana hung right with them and actually ended up outscoring them in the first quarter. But like Atlanta was so hot, so it was really important that they stuck with them there and didn't give up ground and yeah, get too far behind there.
yeah, I mean, I said game one was the challenge game because they had to use so many. They could have used five challenges probably if they'd been allowed to. But this was the composure game. I was just
Mhm.
impressed, playing on the road at, a winner go home game, and Atlanta came out red hot. They stayed composed in the first
Mhm.
half, and then down the stretch, I was really impressed with Indiana just being down five with 5 minutes to go or so, and
No, five
just
with 2 minutes to go. Yeah.
yeah, 5 or 2 minutes to go, and they just kept their composure, played smart basketball, and
Mhm.
you know, I was just very impressed with the composure of the team in that
Yeah,
setting.
for sure. The last few possessions, they were really patient. They didn't panic. They didn't force any shots, and just kept moving the ball. And they got a Kelsey layup, a Lexi layup, and an Aaliyah layup as a result. So really good. And then on the other end, Atlanta didn't really have anyone. They kind of had Ryan checking up threes, and couldn't really get anything going.
Yeah, I kind of felt like Atlanta panicked a little, whereas Indiana stayed composed and they just started chucking up threes, like you said. I mean, Ryan Howard took maybe missed three threes at the end of in the last 5 minutes of the game, and
Hmm.
they weren't getting good looks, and Indiana was patient and composed and
Yeah,
got the good looks. So yeah, just props to the Fever team and
very.
coaching staff for how they
For
handled that.
sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think there have been other games where I've noticed this too, that when they're down, they don't start chucking up threes. Like there are some teams when there's a deficit, they feel like they have to hit a three to get back in it. But Indiana does a really good job of attacking the rim and getting an easy bucket, even when they're down multiple possessions.
Yeah, I mean, it's really smart. I think with a minute five to go, they were down three or four.
Three.
They were down three. And, I think told you and mom, it's like at that point, you got to score, get a stop and score. Like, don't try to win it in one possession. And they did that. I mean, they they got the Lexi layup, then
Hmm.
they got the Boston, then they got a stop, then they got a Boston layup, and they were up one. And then Atlanta, with 7 seconds to go, called a timeout and advanced, or was it 7 seconds? Or
Yeah,
seven.
7.4. And I think there's an argument to be made that they shouldn't have even called a timeout and should have just
That's what I
gone.
always wanted to talk about with you. What do you think of? I asked you about that. I said, wouldn't it be better just to all that whole game? Jordan Canada was killing Indiana, racing up the court, and
Yeah,
I think you just get the ball to Canada and push it up court, and don't let Indiana get set with their defense
right.
and just attack the rim. The refs were calling a lot of fouls in that game.
Hmm.
Attack the rim and try to get something there and have something prepared for your players that in this situation grab the ball and go. I think calling a timeout, just let Indiana set their defense. Then they couldn't get the ball inbounds. Atlanta had to use another timeout because
Hmm.
they couldn't get inbounded. And then Lexi made a great defensive play and stole the
Hmm.
ball in their next inbound pass.
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense. And it's interesting, like who they had inbounding, because they had Ryan Howard inbounding it, and she's not. You don't think of her as a passer, really. And it makes sense that they wouldn't have Canada inbound it because she's so short, and Indiana had Bree Turner on the inbounds defending it. So I don't know
Which
if she
was
could have.
smart,
Yeah.
putting a long athletic person on the inbounder. I thought that was very
Hmm.
smart by the coaching staff.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think it would have been better just letting Canada bring it up and not have to worry about inbounding it. Because yeah, who do you have? What are you going to have Jones inbound it? Are you going to have Alicia Gray? And it seems like you needed Howard and Gray to be options off the pass. So it was a little strange.
Yeah, and another like a decision making by Ryan Howard in that situation. Like Jordan Canada on that first one where Ryan Howard ended up calling a timeout, and Jordan Canada cut out to half court and was wide open. It would have been an easy inbounds pass with 7 seconds still left. That's plenty of time.
Yeah.
You don't mind throwing it. Jordan Canada is so quick, and
Hmm.
I like it's like Ryan Howard was so focused on running the play
Hmm.
that she didn't see a wide open player, and she wasn't wide open. I think somebody did run out towards her
Yeah.
then, but she was wide open for like a full second or a second and a half. And if she had somebody with good court vision and a good, like a Courtney Vandersloot or Caitlin Clark would have seen the open player and gotten the ball inbounds, right? And then if you
Right.
really wanted Ryan Howard to have the ball, just run and take it from Canada right there, and do a dribble handoff, set a screen for Howard. But yeah, it just seemed like Indiana was composed and Atlanta was not in the
Right.
last few minutes of that game, and I thought that was the difference.
Yeah, I think so. And even just like a lot of the players on Indiana's team are hardship signees, but still veterans, and that makes a difference. Ariel Powers was on the 2019 championship team with Washington. Odyssey Sims has played in playoffs. Kelsey doesn't have a lot of playoff experience, but she just has a lot of game experience. And Natasha Howard has won championships with Minnesota and Seattle. So having that veteran presence, whereas if you're Atlanta, you're depending on Ryan Howard, Alicia Gray, who don't have almost any postseason experience, and then Griner obviously has championship experience, but wasn't in the game at the end. Bree Jones, has had a lot of playoff games at Connecticut, but never won anything. So, yeah.
And I think in an end of game situation, like it really helps have guards who don't panic, and Indiana has veteran guards now and just they were I mean, even Lexi, I mean, she's on a rookie deal, right, last year of a rookie deal, I guess, but she when she made that steal, she passed it. So there were three dream players right around her. She got rid
Mm-hmm.
of it, and then
So
Boston
fast.
thought to swing it to Sims, and then Atlanta was just scrambling. And I think Indiana burned off like 6 seconds because I think it was
Mm-hmm.
down to 1.2 then. So
Mm-hmm.
that was just heads up play again, composed by Lexi and Boston to make a smart play in the right moment. And to me, that was a difference in the game. Those last that whole game three, Indiana was composed. The dream kind of melted down in their road
Mm-hmm.
game against Indiana, and Indiana stayed composed in game three and pulled out a great win. Just a lot of fun for all Indiana Fever fans and for the team. You could tell they were just genuinely happy with that win and love your background. That's a good update to your
Yeah,
background there. But yeah, just a fun win and great opportunity for learning and building more experience for these players.
for sure. And I like if you think about next year, I think it's pretty good chances that Lexi, Kelsey are back.
I
Then
hope
you
so.
have Aaliyah and Caitlin on rookie contracts still. And now to have for Hall and Boston and Mitchell to have significant playoff experience together, I think is really going to make a difference next year.
I think so too. I've got a question for you before we go on to the other series. So for next year, backup point guard, Odyssey Sims or Ariel McDonald?
Whew, that's a tough one. They're similar players in a lot of ways. Aries younger, so it's like, do you go with the vet or do you go with like the future? Yeah, I don't think there's room for both of them.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said that's a no-brainer. Ari was a much better fit than
Hmm.
Odyssey would be, but I've been impressed with Odyssey Sims. She's done a really good job,
She
really
has.
played key minutes and has helped the team a lot.
Yeah, I think I lean Aerie just because she is younger and kind of fits that young core. But Indiana's in win now mode. This year they just were devastated by injuries, but I don't know. It's nice to have options, I guess.
Yeah, I think something that would have been an easy choice for me 3 weeks ago, I think has become a little bit harder. I think I would still lean towards Airy also, but yeah, I'm surprised that it's even making me think now. So
Hmm.
props to her.
And props
Props
to Stephanie White.
100%.
She didn't get any votes for Coach of the Year, but I think she deserves some. I think Coach of the Year is one where you can only vote for one player for the media. So I understand why she didn't get any votes, but I don't know that there's too many more people. Certainly, no one has done more with less than Stephanie White this year.
Yeah. Great job by the Indiana Fever. A lot of fun to see them get that win. And so now, we're recording this podcast on Saturday. So tomorrow will be round one against Las Vegas,
Mhm.
game one against Las Vegas. But before we go on to round two of the playoffs, maybe we can just spend a few minutes talking about the other three series.
Yeah. For Minnesota, they kind of blew Golden State out in their first game, wasn't really close. But then they were down 14 in game two going into the fourth quarter and were able to come back to win. But that's also where you just see kind of veteran presence, leadership. They've been there before. They didn't panic. They just kept chipping away at it. And um, Nafisa hit a big bucket, I think. She hit like maybe an 18-foot jumper to give them the lead, maybe. Um, but yeah, that one ended up being really close. And if you're Golden State, you can't really be disappointed with that. They exceeded expectations by far and got some playoff wins. And, they're probably looking to sign a couple free agents and get a little more talent on the team. But they have done a great job, and it seems like a place that players would want to go in free agency.
It does. And, shout out to the Valkyrie fans for, I don't know how far San Jose is from San Francisco, but, they had to play at a different location. And that looked like it was a sold out arena
Mhm.
for game two. And so that, yeah, I mean, Golden State had a great first year, definitely performed above expectations. I really don't like their style of defense. They're kind of this up in your grill. We're going to foul and foul and foul, and the refs aren't going to call everything, so we're going to gain an advantage. I mean, their games are low scoring. It's not pretty basketball to watch Golden State play. So, I mean, maybe when they get more talent, maybe they won't play that way. But I prefer you know a little more free flowing basketball than happens when teams play Golden State. And one other thing I thought that was really important when we watched the fourth quarter of that game was that first possession of the fourth quarter. I feel like Minnesota got a couple of offensive rebounds and finally got a bucket,
Hmm.
after, and I thought that was just really an important possession because if they had not,
Hmm.
they missed a couple shots, and if they had not scored and Golden State had gone down and scored, pushed the lead up to 16 or 17, whatever it would have
Hmm.
been, that could have been a real backbreaker. But I mean,
Yeah.
Minnesota just really battled, and again, that they stayed composed, they
Yeah.
didn't panic, and played well that fourth quarter.
Yeah. And I think you saw the quality depth that Minnesota has. For most of that fourth quarter, they went with Heidemann and Dejanay Carrington um, and
And
Jess
I think
Shepard, I
Shepard had
think.
more minutes than Smith in the fourth quarter
Yeah.
too.
Well, yeah, I think Smith hardly played. I think she got in at the end there, but and then Williams came in. Dejanay got hurt, so I don't know. I
Yeah,
haven't
she
seen an
tweaked her
update about
ankle. Yeah,
that. Hopefully she's okay. But Williams didn't come in until Dejanay had to leave the game. So just the fact that they could mount a comeback with three bench players in the majority of the fourth quarter um, is a good sign for Minnesota.
yeah, yeah. Very impressive win by Minnesota. And then also well, I think so. That was that game. That series went two games. The other
Hmm.
series all went to three games. And the
And a
Vegas
lot
and
were single
Seattle.
possession games.
Yeah, the Vegas Seattle game was super close,
Hmm.
and the series was close. I mean, I think the first game was a blowout, but the next
Hmm.
two games were both close. And
Hmm.
the last game, Seattle had a shot to win at the end.
Yeah. I think
So,
Gabby might have, poor Gabby, PTSD from the Olympics. But yeah, close game. It's really unfortunate because, yeah, you mentioned I hadn't even thought about it. If Seattle had won, Indiana would have had home court advantage because they were the higher seed. Um, but Vegas pulled it out. Jackie Young had a tip back after a missed Asia shot, and that one ended up winning them the game. But yeah, they're on a roll, but Seattle managed to break their streak at least. So we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see. Indiana, I think, was 2-1 against Vegas in the regular season, but they didn't play them in this last month or so when Vegas has been on a tear, obviously. But we'll see. It's not the worst matchup for Indiana, I don't think.
No, it's really not. I don't think it's a terrible matchup. I mean, it depends on how the whistle goes for Asia.
That's yeah, and
We have the was running commentary in our family thread and messages about the Asia whistle.
yeah,
So if Asia gets her whistle and Boston gets in foul trouble, it's going to be a tough series to win.
yeah. If Asia gets her whistle and Aaliyah gets Asia's whistle, Indiana has a good shot at winning.
Yeah,
Or if we
for
could
sure.
switch the whistles, then Indiana wins for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if Aaliyah's shooting 10 free throws a game and Asia's in
Yeah.
foul trouble the whole time,
Yeah.
then yeah, Indiana's winning that series. Um, so yeah, so it's going to be Vegas and Indiana, and then in the other series, Phoenix, they were the higher seed, but I kind of felt like it was an upset to beat New York. But
I thought, yeah, I agree. And even the only game that New York won went to overtime, and they needed overtime to beat them in game one. And Stewie got hurt, and exited in overtime in game one, but ended up playing game two and three, which I think is questionable. She sprained her MCL.
ooh,
So I don't know. There are too many instances where players come out and play and then end up, pulling, tearing an
like
ACL or
Halliburton,
something much worse.
like Halliburton did in the game
Right.
seven of the NBA
Yeah.
championship. But I mean, you're not going to talk Halliburton out of playing game
Right.
seven of the
It's tough. People
championship.
are so
But
competitive.
yes,
But so yeah, it was really surprising. Phoenix killed New York at New York, and
yeah,
then it ended up being a close game at Phoenix for Phoenix to close out this series, but New York just didn't get anything from anyone except for Stewie. And Stewie was injured, so what are you gonna do? That's the we when Misaman went to New York, we thought, man, like it's potentially over for everyone
yeah,
else, but really, I think they just had such a disjointed season. Um, when John Quell was injured and they announced it was going to be 6 weeks at least, I think I said in our text that that could be New York season right there, just because they've dropped some games they shouldn't drop. I was imagining they end up the two seed instead of the one, and Minnesota has the one, and so they end up losing because of that, but they ended up dropping to five. And yeah, I don't know what would have been better for them. Dropping to six actually might have been better if they had done that and faced
probably.
Atlanta. Um, but yeah, they just never they didn't quite get it together and weren't rolling when the playoffs came, so weren't able to do it.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I don't know, and they had a lot of injuries,
Hmm.
to be fair, but a lot of teams had a lot of injuries this year. I mean,
Yeah,
Indiana had a lot of injuries.
and a lot less talent.
Yeah, and so somehow, whether it's, I've never been all that impressed by Sandy Brondello as a coach. I think she's had a lot of talent when she was at Phoenix. She has a lot of talent at New York now. I mean, I don't know. Does the coaching staff deserve some blame? I don't know. Indiana somehow held it together through a tough season of a lot of injuries, and New York just seemed to fall apart this year. And even adding Miesman, I thought, even if they don't get Stewie back, they've replaced her with a world-class player, so
Yeah.
they're going to be fine. But somehow, I don't know if they didn't have good chemistry as a team. It seems like Indiana's got great chemistry, and they all like each other and really
Hmm.
support each other. Have you got that whole clapping when they're shooting a free throw? I don't know what that is,
Hmm.
but it just seems like Indiana, whether it's the coaches or the leaders, the team leadership, they just have great chemistry, and
Yeah.
New York just must not have had it this year. And I don't know where to point the blame, but they just couldn't get it together in spite of having, if you look player by player, I think the most talented team in the league.
Yeah, for sure. I will say in Sandy's defense, she did one of my favorite defensive things I've ever seen in the 2023 finals when she had Vandersloot guard Stokes. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So that was fun. And so sometimes she does creative things like that. But yeah, I think UNESCO is probably a little bit overrated. I don't know that she certainly can't be the best player on a championship team, but she can just be pretty streaky.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have Kelsey Mitchell.
Yeah. I think this year, the past 2 years, Kelsey's seems to get off to rough starts in May, but if you
Hmm.
take June to September, Kelsey over Ionescu any day of the week.
Yeah.
So, all right, so that gives us on to the semifinals here. So you've got Indiana and Vegas and Minnesota and Phoenix starting tomorrow, with Vegas and Minnesota being the home team. So games are tomorrow. And what are your thoughts on those two series? What do you see as keys for Indiana to win, and we want Minnesota to win. Obviously, we
Hmm.
like Nafisa. We love the way Minnesota plays. So, what do you think are some of the keys to this both of those series?
Honestly, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a lot of the officiating. For the Phoenix Minnesota matchup, Alyssa Thomas is a pretty physical player. And if you think about Minnesota's bigs, they're all very much finesse players. Um, so, how does the game get called? Does Thomas just charge over everyone all game and get free throws? Does she make free throws? Um, but I don't know. I think I want to say that Minnesota beat them 3-1, I think, in the regular season. Yeah. So all things considered, I don't know if I think you'd rather see Phoenix than New York, at least on paper, if you're Minnesota. But it does feel like they ended up with kind of a harder um, bracket on the left side of the playoffs than Vegas did, just because of the some teams underperformed, some teams overperformed. So it is a tough road to have to go through Phoenix or New York for Minnesota for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think on the Minnesota side, you were talking earlier about their depth. I think their depth is much better than
Yeah.
Phoenix's. Phoenix has a really good big three
Mm-hmm.
with Thomas, Sabali, and Copper. But
Mm-hmm.
then, I feel like there's a pretty big drop off in quality of player. And
Yeah.
Minnesota's definitely got the depth. So hopefully, even if they get in foul trouble, if Alana Smith gets in foul trouble, um, you can bring in what's the Russian
Yeah.
player's name? I forget her, but
Padalakova or whatever. Yeah.
God, look, yeah, something. And then but you've also got Shepard's been playing
Mm-hmm.
well, and Minnesota's put together a really good team, at least eight to nine deep, I think.
Yeah,
So
especially with Carrington, that help if assuming she's healthy, that helps them quite a bit because Phoenix isn't big. Sabally is large for her size, but not really if she's playing the four. Um, and she's not really a post player either. For playmaking, and three-point shooting, you have to feel like Minnesota has the edge. Alyssa Thomas handles most of the playmaking for Phoenix and does a really good job. And Akoa Makani for Phoenix has been good, but she's a rookie. She's not like a 22-year-old rookie, I don't think, but she is still a rookie to the league. And you'd expect some combination of Williams and Heidemann to prevail there.
yeah, and Carrington, if
Hmm.
she's healthy, Dejanay Carrington really brings a level of defense at the point of attack that maybe Minnesota didn't have. I think Heidemann and Williams are both really good offensive players, and they work hard. They're smart defensive players, but like Carrington's a really good defensive player, good to
Hmm.
great defensive player. So you got Carrington, Fee, and Smith. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a really good defensive team.
It
Minnesota was
is.
number one in defense and number one in offense this
Yeah,
year.
and Bridget Carlton is not bad either. McBride, not bad either. So they don't have any weak defenders.
Yeah, they all fight and they play a smart team concept of basketball. And even on that last possession when Golden State had a shot at winning, like McBride just did a great job. I've
Hmm.
often talked to mom about that this year, that too many players go for blocked shots. And McBride just flew by what's the Golden State player's name who took the
Uh,
shot? I don't
Zandalicini.
Yeah, Zandalicini. Instead of trying to block the shot, she just put both arms up and flew by her to distract
Hmm.
her. And I said,
Yep.
players just need to do that more. I mean, Asia Wilson's the best shot blocker in the league, and she gets 2 blocks a game. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, but players play like they think every shot they can block it, and you just can't.
Yep.
Players need to learn just to contest shots like McBride did. McBride did a
Yep.
great job. I think Minnesota's a smart team with they play smart team defense
Yep.
and they have some high level defenders, but even the people who aren't high level, maybe athletic defenders, just are smart defenders. And they
Hmm.
don't get out of position, they don't gamble on things. I mean, they just play smart team
Yep.
position defense. And so I think I think Minnesota should win this pretty
I think so
handily.
too, especially if you think about composure that we were talking about earlier, there's not really anyone for Minnesota who's going to lose their cool. And you
Right.
feel like there's a couple of players for Phoenix who could lose their cool or lose their composure. Um,
Well, I
and
think
then also
Sabali
you
has a
have
tendency to do that.
who?
Sabali.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she
For sure. And
definitely
then
lets
Alyssa Thomas
you.
also just has bad body language, and Dewana Bonner has bad body language a lot of times. So
Yeah.
um, I think, and then also you have Nafisa, who I think is the MVP this season and has been shooting so well. When your best player is someone like Nafisa, who can score anywhere on the court, for Phoenix, their best player is Alyssa Thomas, and she's just not a scorer. She's not a good shoot, or she's not a shooter. She can score, but she's not a shooter. So I think Minnesota has the advantage in that their best player is better than Phoenix's best player. Their team defense is better. Their team offense is better. So hopefully Minnesota can uh, pull it out pretty quickly. I'm hoping for a sweep, but even 4 games would be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So that should be a good game, a good series. But I think Minnesota's significantly better than Phoenix. So barring injury or horrific officiating, I think Minnesota should be returning to the championship, to the finals. And then what about the Fever and the Aces?
Man, I don't know. It's on paper, Vegas should definitely win. And I think it's likely that they will, but I don't think you can really discount the way the Fever have been playing and that they've been able to get wins and that in the regular season they beat Vegas twice and um, Vegas has, kind of turned a corner since then, but Indiana's also um, added some pieces that they didn't have when they played Vegas last. So it'll be interesting. I think we need Aaliyah Boston to be great to have a chance. And then some, hopefully, some 3-point shooting. We didn't shoot well against Atlanta from three, but if we could get 10 3-pointers, I'd feel pretty good about our chances.
Yeah, well, I think Indiana's come up big in big games this year. They won the Commissioner's Cup at Minnesota.
Yeah.
They pulled out game three at Atlanta, so I'm hoping they can. I think it will depend a lot on the whistle. Um, you know, Clearly, the Aces are, again, if you look player by player, they're one of the best teams in the league. They've had a really up and down season where they were really struggling the first half of the season, then seemed to gel the last third of the season. But yeah, I just don't know what to make of Vegas. They
Hmm.
won a lot of games in a row, but barely beat Seattle, who was the 7 seed. And really, Seattle had a chance to win the series
Yeah.
at Las Vegas. They had the possession and could have won the game, but didn't execute well. So I don't know. I mean, I think Vegas is. I'm sure they're the favorite, and probably if the WNBA is writing narratives, they'd rather see um, Vegas in the finals against Minnesota. But
Yeah.
I think the Fever have a chance. They're going to have to play like they did these last 2 games for
Hmm.
at least 3 games of the series, though, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
They're gonna have
but
to score also. Like the refs can only do so much if you're making shots.
yeah, yeah. And Kelsey Mitchell's, I think she's just elevated her game this season, and
Yeah.
kind of. So, I mean, Asia's the best player for Vegas. You'd say she's better than Indiana's best player. And in a game with only 5 players on the court at a time, the team with the best player has a pretty big advantage. But hey, Boston's a good defender, and hopefully she and Bree Turner and Dantas, if Dantas can be healthy, some combination of them can at least neutralize or slow down Asia a little bit. And
Yeah. Would
you
you
know,
say that Indiana has the next two best players?
I don't know. I mean, Jackie's so good.
She
Um,
is.
All around game, and Jackie's a little streaky offensively, but
Hmm.
she's just such a smart all around basketball player. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to say Boston's better than Jackie right
So you'd
now.
go Asia, Kelsey, Jackie, Boston right now?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So, but I mean, you got Howard as
Hmm.
a experienced
Howard's better
player,
than
which seemed,
Smith,
yeah,
and Lexi's better than Kirsten Bell, who they've been starting.
yeah. So, Yeah. So I mean, Indiana's got a chance, and if their bench players keep contributing like they have been, they've got a great chance at pulling off another upset. So hopefully they'll do that, and you know, get a chance to get some more playoff experience. At a bare minimum, they're getting more playoff experience, as you've mentioned. You kept saying when I kept saying they should tank, you kept saying, "No, this will be good for them to get playoff experience." So you were right. I was wrong. I'll take the
Yeah, getting
L on that.
at least 6 games.
Yeah. So this is going to be good for building for the future. And yeah, so hopefully the Fever and the Lynx can pull it off, and we can have you know a rematch of the Commissioner's Cup Championship.
There you go. Yeah, as everyone predicted.
Exactly. So we haven't done much the past couple of podcasts, I don't think, about what were you thinking or what were they thinking or a segment we had, but had a couple things I wanted to talk about. We already touched briefly on the WNBA response with the Indiana fan. I mean,
hmm
what were they thinking to take the fan out and bring him back in? It couldn't have been anything terrible. I don't know, but
Yeah, I can kind of see it just in the sense that Gray was like very upset and just to de-escalate the situation. But yeah, it does. How much power should the players have in removing people from games? I don't know.
I mean, to me, that's on the coach to de-escalate it with his player.
Yeah.
If I'm a coach, I pull her out. I go
But
set
we
her
talked
aside and
about
say, "Hey,
this.
what?
Really,
Calm
I think
down."
Atlanta probably lost because Alicia Gray had lost her composure, and uh, yeah, I think
Yeah.
they probably
So
needed a timeout to get her under control.
yeah, yeah. So another thing, uh, what is Becky Hammond thinking with these comments to the press? These uh, elk and a white-tailed deer. What
Yeah,
is going on?
Becky's so crazy. She's a really good coach in like a tactical sense, it feels like probably one of the best in the league. But there's she gets pretty messy, it feels like, for no reason. And like if you really feel confident that Asia's the best player or the best defensive player, why are you so upset about a co-defensive player of the year?
Yeah. What's that
Um,
quote? I think she doth protesteth too much.
yeah, like let the winning speak for you. When in 2023, Stewie won MVP that year, and Vegas won the championship against New York at New York with 2 starters injured. But they all Vegas was doing was complaining about how Stewie won MVP and Asia was slighted and blah blah blah. Like the response should be, we won the one that mattered.
Yeah.
Who cares about the one that people vote on? We know who we are, we won. So you got the best of Stewie. Why are you dragging Stewie through the mud? And then co-defensive player of the year. I think it's a little bit dumb um, because it's the
But it's
player
not
of
like
the year.
but it's not like everybody got together and they had a conversation and they
No.
decided we're going to award a co-defensive player of the year.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just
it was just
it's
a
a bunch
tie.
of votes.
29-29, even split. I think you should potentially just say, okay, the team with the better record gets it. And that would have been Smith.
Yeah. Well, what would Becky
But
Hammond compare him to then?
right.
I mean, come
But
on.
it's so silly. Cheryl Reeve made a comment like, we love our white deer or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
But it's so silly. And really, Wilson is undeniably a great player, a great defensive player. But I looked at the last 10 defensive players of the year, and no one, Wilson is the only one in the last 10 years who's won defensive player of the year with when her team had worse than fourth defense in the league. So this year, her team is eighth in the league. The only
Yeah.
teams that are worse defense than Vegas this year are the 5 that didn't even make the playoffs. And then in 2022, when she won it, they were sixth. So
Yeah.
Asia's won it twice when her team has been sub-average, subpar defense. And like a great defender should raise Asia gets a lot of individual stats, but I feel like the best defender should raise the level of their team defense. It's a team sport. It's an individual award, but it's a team sport, and the team is what matters.
Yeah. The herd of elk weren't so impressive this year, Becky. If you guys finished eighth in defense, you don't deserve to get defensive player. You should be grateful to get Defensive Player of the Year to have such a terrible team defense. So it's just a bad look, disappointing. Becky needs to figure out her PR game. She's not doing the WNBA or Asia any favor in winning over fans outside of their own fan base. It's not a good look. I don't know what she's thinking.
No, they're very much the Aces feel like kind of the villains of the league.
Yeah, at least from our perspective, and didn't used to feel that way because we were big fans of Jackie Young since she's from Indiana, and always liked her. But yeah, I'm not loving the look of Vegas and what Becky's been doing with her public comments lately. So one other, what were they thinking is something that you brought up. Seattle making that trade for Sykes to try to win this season. I mean, what were they thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed pretty apparent to me that they were not really in contention for the championship. And they gave up a first round pick for what, a month and a half of Sykes and got bounced in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like a good decision. I mean, they've got a high pick because they've got LA's pick, so maybe they're just thinking, no, we don't need it. But I mean, it
Hmm.
for a few weeks of rental of somebody who didn't really elevate your team much at all,
No.
it really didn't make a lot of sense. And I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I've been saying for a couple of years now that I don't think Noel Quinn is that great of a coach. And I mean, I think Seattle needs to move on and find a different coach.
I think so. If Seattle had won, I wonder if that would have bought her more time, if they had won the first round, but it seems like her time probably needs to be at an end there. And there's just been a lot of kind of messy stuff, it seems like, surrounding them. So it seems like a fresh start would be good.
Yeah, I think so. So, all right. So, we got games tomorrow. I think Tuesday and Friday. It's Sunday, Tuesday, Friday coming up. And then the following Sunday and Tuesday, if necessary, games 4 and 5. So a lot of good basketball this week. And yeah, go Fever and go Lynx. All right. Well, I think that's it for the W Hoops podcast today. Everyone, please be sure to subscribe and leave a comment or review, and we'll see you next week.